Hey, let's see. We were having a really bad. I'm going to run that back one more time. We're having some connection issues. Hello. I'm wondering if the internet is running slow today because our entire state is on fire. Welcome one and all to Shark Jumpers, presented by the Flick-N-Reel Fancast. This is the show about what happens when risk triumphs over reward, what happens when stupidity hides in the guise of boldness. We at FNR have gathered our friends to discuss films, shows, and even games that have well and truly jumped the shark. But before we announce our travesties for discussion, I must introduce my panel for today's dissection. First, there's me, just dripping with humidity, so bear with me while I deal with that. The first person I want to introduce is a special guest. Ooh, more internet issues. Fantastic. All right. Hopefully you guys can see me okay. But I would like to bring on Tyler Hall, who was my co-host of our old channel, the Fan Splash Podcast. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you? It's really hot today.
I'm doing. It's so bad.
It reminds me of. What's that?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. I thought you couldn't hear me for a second. It reminds me of we did an episode. We had a guest. I think it was just my brother or whatever, but we were dying of heat stroke there too. So
just like really you could see all the pit stains in like every one of our shirts. Yeah, we ran that show for a few years. A lot of fun, a lot of good memories. There's a lot of great videos still on there. So if you guys ever want to YouTube the Fan Splash Podcast on YouTube, find that and check out some old content. Next, I want to bring on, much like Tyler hasn't been on the show much, but did appear when we did our special Jackal Bonanza stream, which was a lot of fun. And it was the wonderful, the amazing, the awesome, straight from the What the Show podcast. And that is Bethany Deacon.
Hello.
How's it going, Bethany?
Everyone. I just realized as I was sitting backstage that I matched my board picture today because I chose to wear yellow. That was not intentional, but added bonus. I was like, ooh, yellow.
And Bethany, I love that you're wearing a Star Wars shirt. Bethany probably was part of the coolest wedding I've ever seen in my entire life. I watched that video like 6 times. It was incredible. There was lightsaber duels. There was Schmodown champions in attendance. It was a really great time.
That is true. I mean, I'm sure your wedding will be equally amazing. So you got
it's
that.
Not 100 degrees. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it so much. It's gonna be real special. It's gonna be beautiful. We're gonna have it out in the field. They've got tree surround. It's gonna be very woodland, just like she's got a very kind of like elvish kind of ring, and my wedding band is kind of looks like Mjolnir. Like it's got like some of the Celtic symbols on it and stuff.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's how I do it. And
mine was sort of woodsy, so
there you go.
It's always a good time.
But certainly not least, one of my favorite people to bring on the show, and that is to his close friends, I guess, known as Cal, but that's Chris Anthony Lopez. How you doing, buddy? And how are you wearing a suit right now, or a suit jacket, I should say?
Trust me, from the waist down, it's sweatpants, but from the waist up, I had to
sweatpants is worse.
I'm
in shorts and I'm drenched.
My God, it's 80 degrees in Northwest Oklahoma. We're out here rocking. We had 100 yesterday, but we're good. But I'm happy to be here. It's been a minute. I agreed to this like a month ago, and I'm like, you know what? I gotta do that thing for Jesse. I gotta watch Indy 4 again because it's been a hot button conversation in the little spheres that we're all a part of. The whole Indiana Jones, which was the worst one, but. I have my 2 cents, and we'll get to those in a little bit. But I'm happy to be here, Jesse.
I'll bring this up just for spoilers so people know what we're talking about. Bethany is going to be talking. I mean, hang on. Let's rewind a second. I got to rewind because there's going to be people on here that don't know what this show is. Well, I did a little bit in the intro, but I guess the one last order of business before we dive headfirst into the Shark Tank is I want this to be our most interactive show. I want everyone to be part of the conversation, either adding to it or suggesting other properties for us to sink our teeth into. And if you want to participate in conversations, please leave your questions and comments with Streamlabs at streamlabs.com/Flick-N-Reel, and I will bring that back up here in a second. But firstly, if I lose the train of thought, I am just dying of heat stroke right now, so I'm completely out of it. All right, so Tyler will be covering the X-Men franchise, so we'll be talking about a couple different movies therein because unlike some franchises, X-Men's jumped the shark a couple different times, so that'll be a fun topic of conversation. And then obviously we'll be talking about Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, a la Chris Anthony Lopez, and Bethany's taking on Jurassic Park, The Lost World, Jurassic Park. Got to get that right. Don't want to miss a trivia point question with that.
It's like the first movie jumped the shark. The second they made it. The second that they made it.
Okay, so yeah, those are our movies, and I think first of all, I know everyone. I tried to just a disclaimer. I told myself I was going to rewatch The Crimes of Grindelwald because I watched it in theaters, and I walked out angry. Not only is it the first Wizarding World movie that I've walked out of not enjoying, I was actually upset. So I keep meaning to go back and rewatch it, and obviously for study purposes for the Schmodown, for anyone that doesn't know, I'm part of the Schmodown, at least for this year. It's on my list of films to study. So I put it on for 20 minutes this morning, and then just hell broke loose. I was trying to cool down the apartment. I was trying to write notes for the show because I was up too late talking and studying with some friends. So, anyways, I got watched 20 minutes of it. But
that's enough.
Bethany, you were
yeah, you got the gist of it.
Yeah. Mike, who was on our first episode, he's part of the Premiere Boys, talked to us. We were all talking about Nicolas Cage films, talked about Drive, Angry, Knowing, and Next, and that was a lot of fun. Oh, Mike, how's it doing, buddy?
Say his name and he just appears. He's like Beetlejuice a little bit.
Or Candyman, which is a trailer we didn't talk about this morning.
Depending.
But if any of you guys hadn't checked out our news and views show that we did this morning, it was a lot of fun despite dying of sweat. But that is on the channel. Check that out after this one. Anyways, Mike said you got to have Bethany on the show. I said, well, of course, I'd love to have Bethany on the show. Outside of the fundraising stream, she hasn't really been on. So I asked you what you wanted to talk about, and you said, can I please discuss Jurassic Park? So I was hoping with that we could kick that off with our first Shark Jumpers film. Tell us why this movie jumped the shark for you.
Can I just say I love the picture of Goldblum that you picked for that from the very beginning of the movie. I was thinking, it's funny. So Steven Spielberg, like a lot of people, Steven Spielberg is my favorite director, and he can't do a lot of wrong except for a couple of the films that we will be discussing today, which maybe proves that he should not direct sequels. Which is also funny because, of course, J.J. Abrams often gets compared to, Spielberg and Lucas, whatever, taking a lot of, homages to them and inspiration from them. And people always talk about how Abrams can't stick the landing. And I was like, should we add Spielberg to that maybe? He might also not be able to stick the landing on endings, or at least sequel endings, which is where I kind of found my jump the shark moment. The other thing I was thinking about is I feel like a lot of times when we discuss franchises, the poor third movie or sometimes fourth movie gets, kind of shat on a lot. And I was like, it's very rare that there's like a sequel that's where people are like, oh, that's where it kind of, I just tuned out. It was, one and done for me. And then the rest of the franchise kind of fizzled. And then I thought about it and I was like, Jurassic Park is that for me. It's really the sequel that I kind of, it went downhill for me. Even though I love Goldblum, and I love that Goldblum gets to be like super Goldbloomy and just star in this movie. Overall, it's
you can't go wrong when you go Goldblum.
What about Goldblum?
Oh, I said you can't go wrong when you go with Goldblum.
It's true. I mean, and the more Goldblum, the better, which is why this movie should be tailor-made for me. My favorite director is directing it. It's, the first movie was absolutely brilliant, and more Goldblum, like it should be perfect. And overall,
Is there
I
a
find it
movie that
honestly.
ages better than the first Jurassic Park? Like I saw.
Excuse me?
I said, is there a movie that ages as well as Jurassic Park?
Oh, I thought you implied that the second one aged better than the first one. I'm like,
No,
what
no,
the
no, no,
hell?
no. I'm just saying,
I
like
would
they
say
had their
maybe this
25th
might
anniversary.
be controversial. Well, I think E.T. sticking
Okay.
with Spielberg. I think that movie's aged really well. I think Titanic has aged pretty well. Like I go back and I look at it, and I still think that like the ship the ship sinking. My words are all jumbled. It's still really, really iconic. The movie, I know we like make fun of it, and the door, and it's been 84 years, and Jack Rose. But I do think overall, I watched it recently in the last few months when we were like under lockdown, and I was like, I think this movie kind of holds up. But I would say Jurassic Park probably is like top tier and like going and watching movies, especially in special effects that have held up.
It's always hard when you go from something that was just so well received, so still iconic and loved and beheld, to a second film where people range from being like, I like it, to this was awful. And that's just, that in itself is a huge giant step down. I recently rewatched all the Jurassic Park movies because I have a really hard time with World. And I was like, I like all three of these films to varying degrees. But when I was a kid, I told myself the third one was the worst, and I don't think I feel that way anymore.
I think first of all, any movie that has a velociraptor going Alan in it is quality. And again, I know everyone kind of says this, but the third one at least is like the shortest of the franchise. So even if you don't love it, you go in, you eat some popcorn, you watch dinosaurs chase people around for 90 minutes, and it's over.
Pterodactyls.
Pterodactyls are there. The second one just honestly overall is kind of boring. That's not really like what makes it like jump the shark to me. I just feel like there's a couple of moments that you could say it jumped the shark. And Jurassic Park, as we know it, was over. I mean, I do think that honestly, it's funny talking about Goldblum and more Goldblum, but Goldblum kind of summed it up best in the first movie. They were so preoccupied with the fact of whether or not they could make a sequel that they didn't think about the fact that they should make a sequel. They could, and they did. Should they have?
You stood on the shoulders of geniuses
The first
to
movie
accomplish
is
something as fast
perfect.
as you could, and before you even knew what you had, you patented it and packaged it and slapped it on a plastic lunchbox, and now you're selling it. You're going to sell it. Well,
That scared the hell out of me, by the way, for the record.
Pretty much sums it up.
I mean, you go from how perfect Jurassic Park was to kind of transitioning over. I got the soundbite just for this instance.
Still a bop, though. I will say, John Williams' score is, just as good. He's never hurt me in my life, and even the worst, Jurassic Park movies or the worst Star Wars movies.
A wild koi in the chat, and he is disagreeing, perhaps.
I think it has a lot of good moments. And this is where my argument comes in, that I think overall the most of the movie is good, but it's that last third from the gymnastics moment with the velociraptor kind of on. But I think the biggest kind of, jump the shark moment has to be the T-Rex in San Diego. Like that is the moment to me which I'm really mad because now in Jurassic World, they're like kind of like Mike and I were literally discussing this morning. We're like, they took the worst part of all the Jurassic Park movies, which was the T-Rex lost it, like let loose in San Diego. And they're making that basically where the franchise is going, which I'm not thrilled with. So I would say that's where it jumps the shark.
I love the first Jurassic Park movie, and I liked most of the second one. I even do like the scene where the kid comes into his parents' room and he's like, "There's a dinosaur in the backyard," and then they're like arguing, and they walk to the room, and they're like, "It's a fish tank. He needs a real nightlight." And then they see the T-Rex in the doghouse, and I don't know. Like there are parts of it that are enjoyable, but where the franchise has gone, where that last pile of garbage ended, that was the only time I ever thought of walking out of a theater was when I went and saw Jurassic Park: Fallen Kingdom. That was. I don't even know how so many people worked on something like that, and it got like printed out.
I want
really
to take Koi's comment right here, because he says the Lost World is better than either, or the Lost World's better than either Jurassic World, and I'm going to agree with that, because they went from jumping the shark to Jurassic World, where they have it's not a megalodon, is it? What is it called?
Yeah.
No, it's a Leoplerodon.
Let's shut the hell up. But then it's eating the shark. I actually never saw Fallen Kingdom. The trailers threw me off so bad. I despise Jurassic World. I felt like they were kind of like,
oh, you didn't miss anything.
And then Jurassic World shat on the property, like just outright. So when you said I'm going to do Jurassic Park, I think I messaged you to try to clarify. I was like, oh, like Jurassic World, and you're like, no, the Lost World, and I was like, interesting. Okay, let's have this conversation, because I agree with a lot of what you're saying, that like it falls off the rails in the third act. And it's one of those ones for me where the shark jumping isn't one particular movie. It's almost like a transition, like the second going into the third, and then like Jurassic World. So it's kind of a moment, or like a period of time in the film that just was the franchise losing its way already.
There are legitimately some good moments in The Lost World. Like, I'm not saying the overall movie is god awful. Like I said, overall to me, it's kind of, I think it runs a little long, and there are bits where honestly I think it's kind of boring. But overall, I think it's, Goldblum's there. You've got some great moments of suspense. You've got some great T-Rex moments, some great, Velociraptor moments. Like, those are the things that make like
the disrespect for the T-Rex. Oh no, that was the third movie. Just kidding. I take it back.
No, it was the third movie, and you're talking about they tried to push the whole Spinosaurus thing.
Yeah.
I want to say one of my favorite parts of The Lost World is probably over the top, and that's the part where their caravan or whatever like kind of falls over the edge, but it's the two T-Rexes. They come in. Yes. It's the two T-Rexes come in, and I got to look at the characters. Roland, when they like share him, he knows he like spends his final moments trying to save his friends. And and he gets ripped in half for it. They literally grab his head. I think that's kind of cool. And they're coming after the juvenile, which is something that they left out in the first movie when they did a hybrid for one of the characters. There's supposed to be this character in the first movie named Ed Regis, but they kind of he's more prominent in the book, and he's the guy that actually dies when the T-Rex escapes in the first one. But they made him a hybrid character with Donald Gennaro, and then also kind of changed the way he dies. But Ed Regis actually he does run away when the T-Rex gets out, runs away from Tim and Lex or whatever, and but then he gets eaten by a juvenile. So I really liked when they used the juvenile in the Lost World Jurassic Park, and they had him kind of
we say juvenile,
had the T-Rex, T-Rex. Yeah, the baby T-Rex. Yeah, because they use it a lot in the Lost World. It's like that in the city scene, the juvenile's actually there too, and then there's like John Hammond's nephew or something, and the mother T-Rex, the one that escapes, actually just like lets the juvenile go after him. So that's kind of it's kind of cool. It's like more like I don't remember that from like the book, because I don't remember much of the Lost World book, but I feel like it's like a good callback kind of to how that character dies in the first book.
I agree with Montyverse. We need a juvenile counter on screen, because I think we're at about 12.
A lot of juveniles being dropped, but my thoughts on The Lost World.
Please.
This might sound crazy. It's the one out of the original trilogy I've seen the least. I'll say that. And I know that when I was a child and I was going to my aunt's house all the time, I'd watch Jurassic Park 3 all the time. Now, granted, I was a juvenile at the time, so I didn't. First film, I think we wouldn't be as critical if the first film wasn't literally perfect. Like Jurassic Park, as it stands, like it's an all-timer. The movie has aged tremendously, even with the visual effects. And I guarantee that if we didn't all love Jurassic Park, I would love to hear somebody say, I don't like Jurassic Park. I would love to have that conversation. Maybe not on Shark Jumpers, but on anything proper.
I was talking to Tyler a little bit when we were talking about what everyone was picking, and he was trying to figure out what to pick, and he brought up Tremors, and I was like, I love the first Tremors movies, but like I don't, because they're all B movies at best. Like I don't know where you say it jumped the shark at this point.
Right.
But yeah, I think Chris brings up a great point. Jurassic Park is Jurassic Park. It is one of those films that changes cinema. Like you have Star Wars,
Totally.
Jurassic Park. They're both huge things because it took practical effects somewhere that we didn't think we could go, and that people are still scared to in their own franchise. Jurassic World had almost no animatronics, and it suffered for it.
And how many dinosaur movies have we gotten over the last couple decades? Because it's hard to replicate dinosaurs because everyone's going to go to, Jurassic Park. Oh, you're going to do that. And even with Jurassic World, dare I say it, I really, really like that first Jurassic World movie because it knows what it is. And it's not trying to be, is it a lot like Jurassic Park? Yes, it is. Fallen Kingdom, however, is a garbage fire. The only cool part is to have velociraptors jumping through glass and explosions happening behind them. That shot in the movie rules, but everything else is dumb. So the Lost World Jurassic. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, we're a lot of people hate Jurassic World, but just as a theme park enthusiast, I kind of like it. I kind of like that movie.
It's fun in theory.
I did want to see Jurassic Park actually get to be like a functioning theme park.
Yeah,
I loved getting to see people, and I loved that it would be sponsored by T-Mobile. I'm like, oh my god, that's so true because like every ride.
It's perfect. Yeah.
So just Bethany like the theme park nerd in me really appreciated it.
Bethany would not be one of those kids in the audience on her phone while looking at dinosaurs. She would be
like Jimmy Fallon was there. Yeah. It was crazy. It was a whole thing.
Ooh,
but
I hate to say that we have to kick Shug out of the chat for this comment.
Shug, that is an incredibly hot take. How do you survive on the internet, dude?
You said you wanted to hear someone say they don't like it.
Well, he said he doesn't care for it. Doesn't care for it. Like no. I want to hear someone say like I do not like this movie. Like and that's great. If you just don't like it, then we can have a different conversation later, and we'll have to talk about your future on Spin from the Reel. But
that's right.
The Lost World
open slot.
There may be after the conversation with Shug, but the Lost World Jurassic Park. I don't know, just something about it makes me not want to revisit it. Like it's to me, if I'm gonna rewatch Jurassic Park, right? It's the first Jurassic Park. If I'm gonna watch a dinosaur movie, I'm watching Jurassic Park or Disney's Dinosaur, either one. But Jurassic Park is like the perfect film, and it's
Before Time. Let's go.
I'll hold that thought. Whoa. But the big summer blockbuster, when we think of those, we think of the Jawses, we think of the Jurassic Parks of the world because they perfected to be like how good of a movie, how good a summer blockbuster can be on top of being a really good movie. Whether you think it's a good book adaptation, that's a whole different conversation. But having to follow that up. And I do not envy Steven Spielberg for having to follow his own work up. Trust me, we'll get to my choice in a bit. But it's hard to rock with that. And I had to remind myself what happened in The Lost World when I found out we were talking about this movie today. Because I'm like, I haven't seen that movie in probably
it's pretty much
10 years.
There's like the RV scene, and that's it.
Yes, that's the one scene I vividly remembered.
A good chunk of the movie, actually.
It's
awesome. Holding onto that rope for so long in the rain. There's no suspension of disbelief. I get it. Like I'll roll with it. It's a good suspense.
We're talking dinosaurs in movies.
Like there's dinosaurs out there. So the fact that they're holding onto a rope is like that should not be my biggest pet peeve. But it's a long time to hold
From,
onto a rope.
Lost World lacks
Yeah.
the wonder and excitement of the first. It was a perfectly okay movie for the first hour and 45 minutes, but it's so forgettable. I agree.
Well, Jeff
I think it's
Goldblum said, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I like how I just call him Jeff Goldblum, Dr. Ian Malcolm. Jeff Goldblum, like he's just playing himself.
Dr. Goldblum.
At the beginning of the movie, he literally sums up what Jurassic Park is, but like, you know, and it's a little like meta joke, whatever, but he said something about the fact that like, oh sure, at first it's all wonder, and then it ends with people screaming and running away from dinosaurs, and it's like, yeah, that's pretty much every movie. And I appreciate the joke, it's a good joke, but like that's the thing, like he says it, like you're basically revisiting the same beats of that first one. And that's one reason I do actually kind of like Jurassic World a little bit better than some of the other sequels, is at least there's something new in the fact that like, okay, the park is actually a functioning real park now. Like every other one, it's like, this is what the park would be. A few people are there, dinosaurs, blah, blah. And so I think once you do the first one, like, it's a perfect movie. It just is. It's a perfect movie. It holds up really well, as we've established. You know what else is a perfect movie? E.T. And never, ever, please, for the love of God, make a sequel to that movie. The little Comcast commercial was enough. I did cry watching it. I'm not gonna lie. If you
I remember that.
If you watching that commercial.
My question is let's see, is it Attack of the Clones or is it Revenge of the Sith? Does that serve as a prequel or is that a sequel to E.T.? With all the little E.T. guys in the
Prequel?
I would
well, no,
say-
that's not.
Well, it's a long time ago.
Well,
Well,
it's happened a
far
long-
away, so it's a
I would say it's technically a prequel because you're showing some fellow ET aliens from the Green Planet. But yeah, I'm gonna call that a prequel and not a sequel, technically.
There's something that's overlooked about the Lost World Jurassic Park 2 that I think is kind of like crazy plot armor, if you will. You can explain it, but it's just the Lost World takes place on another island. There was a breeding island, right?
Oh, you mean the island
a research
that they
facility
forgot
island
existed in?
Yeah, they're
Jurassic
like,
World?
oh, by the way, no, there was a secondary location, and it's like these are where all the animals survived. And it's like, okay, so you had broken containment on 2 islands, right? So Isla Nublar and Isla Sorna, and Isla Sorna being the breeding ground island. So you're gonna, I don't know, like they never go back to the first island until Jurassic World, which is cool. But it's just like, you know, like the way that the way that the contingencies and all the things going wrong and like things happening to get the animals out of their cages in the first movie is, I think it's then in the second movie they're lazy about how they survive and how everything is like.
I just want to say what's up to Gio.
And most of it is about people in
Lost World had an amazing theme, and I hope we hear it again.
a lot of that movie is people chasing dinosaurs in jeeps with rifles, which would sound more cool than it is, but it's an operation. So
it's better than have a plot about militarizing the raptors. But all right, so we are approaching 30 minutes here. I definitely want to wrap up the Jurassic Park talk and move on to the next film or franchise. Is there any last thoughts before we move on to the next?
If I can address the actual jumping of the shark moment that Bethany had mentioned with them going to San Diego at the end of the film,
Yes,
is it the most memorable part of that film? Yes. Yes, it is.
Is
it because it's good? No, it's not. And yes, is it? I definitely question the hell out of the logic in Fallen Kingdom with let's let all of them go into America. It's like, wait a minute, that's awfully that's awfully inappropriate and just wrong and dumb. But it is. I mean, everyone in Jurassic Park is dumb. Every single person, as far as I'm concerned, is dumb. And even all the doctors, I don't care what kind of title you have, you're dumb. But in the whole San Diego sequence, it's fun, but we're just start getting stupid already. And little did we know, decades later, we'd be talking about Jurassic World, Dominion, where we're living among the dinosaurs. And It's yes, life finds a way, and apparently it found a way to make 3 more movies after this, 6 upcoming. So the movie's
money
fine.
Finds a way.
It's
Money
John
talks,
Hammond's
baby.
vision. It's all about money. Yeah.
God, people are so dumb in those movies. Dumb.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
It's like horror movie logic.
I know that Tyler probably, especially with me in the stream here, when we get to Tyler's category, it will tend to go off the rails a little bit. So I think because I can do mine pretty quick, I want to move on to Chris's film, which is the 4th. It's weird that you found this movie because I was always convinced it didn't exist, but that is Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the 4th Indiana
Definitely
Jones
exists.
film, starring Shia LaBeouf and Kate Blanchett and a 110-year-old Harrison Ford, which means that he's going to be 130 in the next one. So that's fascinating how they're going to do that.
I mean, they already separated my man's shoulders, so it's one hell of a production, y'all. But okay, let me set the scene for y'all.
1 second, I got right before you start.
Let's
see if this plays. Play.
Not the man I knew 10 years ago.
It's not the years. It's the mileage. There it is. I thought that was the appropriate quote for this film.
Look. Okay, so let me set the scene.
Set it up, Chris.
2008. The year is 2008. Little did we know this would be the last film to be distributed, the last Indiana Jones film to be distributed by Paramount and made by Lucasfilm as a separate entity before Disney buys them not too long after this. But it's 19 years after Last Crusade. And Last Crusade, I don't know about y'all, but I love Last Crusade. It probably is my favorite of the bunch. That and Raiders flip-flops all the time. But to me, the Indiana Jones trilogy,
I think that's
before
fair.
we got this film, is fantastic. It's one of the it's so tight and contained, and they're all different in their own way. But Indy as an action hero, I've always felt like, and I guarantee a lot of people would agree with me, Indiana Jones is a realistic action hero, but at the same time, I know the whole conversation of you can take him out of the movie and the movie would still pan out the way it is. Yeah, shut up. He has a whip, he has a hat, and he's cool. So I don't want to hear it. So 2008 happens, and it's Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I'm immediately going to show my age. This is the first film that I saw in theater, or that had Indiana Jones in it, and I was 10 years old when this movie came out. And I was so enthralled by Indiana Jones. Before this, I watched Raiders and Last Crusade and Temple of Doom all the time on what was then Spike. I was watching a lot of Spike as a kid. I shouldn't have been watching Spike, but I was, because Raiders of the Lost Ark was on it. And I watched this all the time. So when this movie was announced and we were getting trailers for it, yes, please, Indiana Jones. I love Harrison Ford. Yes, I went to go see the movie. I thought it was immaculate. I thought this movie was incredible. Like, this is nuts. It's Indiana Jones and it's aliens. Yes. Oh my God, it's so cool. And now, 13 years later, now that I'm 23 years old, and I like to think I've matured since being a juvenile at the time. What's up, Tyler? But I think the movie...
The word of the day is juvenile.
Word of the day is juvenile. But talk about jumping the shark. First of all, the second this movie was in production, it had jumped the shark. Let's be frank. Indiana Jones, as it stood, 13 or 19 years after the original trilogy ended, felt like it was enough. But the power of Harrison Ford and Steven Spielberg cannot be denied. If they want something done, it's going to happen. Yes, juvenile. At one point, or and to some degree, we're all juveniles. But the second this movie was started in pre-production, it jumped the shark. Let's be real. This movie shouldn't have happened. And I don't want to be that guy, because I really, really enjoyed this move still.
Did it jump the shark, or did it jump the fridge?
It definitely nuked the fridge. It swung with some monkeys, and they were ants that ate people. So there were a bunch of things to pickpocket from this thing. So Indiana Jones as a character, it means a lot to me and a bunch of other folks. Sean in the chat, South Park episode about this movie says everything we need to know. Yes, but
I remember this episode. Yeah,
it's also coming from a place of bitterness because there's so much good Indiana Jones content out there prior to this movie, whether it's comics, games, TV shows. If you like the TV show as well, there's a bunch of good Indiana Jones stuff, right? And they had a good and they had a bunch of good ideas that they could have plucked from. But the second there was the nuking of the fridge in the beginning, like the first 20 minutes of the movie, and then later in the movie, you got Shia LaBeouf swinging with monkeys in Peru or Argentina, wherever the hell they were at.
So
And
this movie
then
came
you
out in
have
2008, correct?
2008, yes.
Yeah, so I was 15, and at 15, I was like, that's stupid. Not the whole movie. It was a while before I realized how I felt about the whole movie, but when I saw him climb in the fridge and get yeeted like a mile, I was like, no.
And that says a lot about myself and you, Jesse, because I thought that shit was cool as hell. I'm like, that's perfect. That's the perfect way to evade a nuclear explosion by jumping into the fridge. That was
that's
lead
what I'll
aligned.
do. I'll climb in the fridge.
And they made sure, Steven Spielberg made sure to emphasize that it was lead lined in the shot. We saw that. So it perfectly explained why the fridge was a more than capable.
I can understand the fridge
for
surviving. I just can't understand him surviving in it.
And he was swung like miles away. Yeah. He tumbled a little bit, and he's perfectly fine. And that 60-year-old man, he's okay. He's perfectly fine. So the movie pans out, and say what you want about Shia LaBeouf, I thought he was fine as Mutt Williams. And you bring back Marion Ravenwood. It was, yes, please give me more Karen Allen. I love her. But oh my God, if the monkeys didn't do it for you, if the fridge didn't do it for you, the entire third act would do it for you. Because the second it introduces the extraterrestrial, in a franchise that's built on religion, they really emphasize like the Ark of the Covenant, and obviously we saw the Holy Grail in the third film is really rooted in religion and different religions in certain aspects with Temple of Doom. Right. But in this one,
it's religion.
Yeah, they led us that way in the beginning of this film. Like, oh, it's still religion. This is not the God that you think of. It's not your God that you think of. But as the film progresses, and we see the third act, and we see this CGI alien go and touch Cate Blanchett right in the face. And all of us are sitting there like, what is going on? Like, I thought this, like, what is this? And it's so funny that when that whole sequence ends at the end of the film with the aliens, they move on with their lives. And let's go get married. Here, kid, take the hat. Nope, I'm still Indiana Jones. Like, it's like, what the hell? Like, you just saw aliens. Like, yeah, God. Yep, God. We're out here eating hearts. Okay, great. That's fine. But the second we see aliens in this thing, we just shrug it off. It makes no sense to me. To this day, when I rewatched this a couple of days ago, like, this movie is insanity. But boy, do I still really dig it. And I see Mike in the chat with the accent. I'm assuming you're talking about Cate Blanchett's accent from this whole movie. And yo,
Galadriel, she is not.
I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand Cate Blanchett in this movie. Not because it's like, I guarantee she did exactly what Steven Spielberg wanted. And he's Steven Spielberg. Who the hell is going to say no to Steven Spielberg? And in news recently, apparently he says no to other folks. Universal's like, hey, can we please remake Jaws? Please, 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 please. And he says, no, hell no, you're not remaking Jaws. And I mean, he let them do them sequels, but apparently remaking it's the worst thing on the planet. So Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I cannot emphasize how much I still really dig this movie. Maybe because Harrison Ford can charm the brown blazer off of any kid nowadays, but this movie shouldn't have been made, or they should have strayed away from aliens. They've done Atlantis in games and comics. Why not do Atlantis? Maybe they'll do that in this movie. Do something fun.
Atlantis would be really cool.
Do something more. I'm not saying go to Atlantis, but you can find it, and you can do all these.
El Dorado.
Right. You can stay grounded, literally grounded to Earth and in reality. And you chose to go. And yes, the whole baby thing. Yes, Henry Jones III.
Reference to our Shark Jumper, our first Shark Jumpers episode, knowing.
I was just so flustered watching this and so frustrated because I know in hindsight, in 2008 when I went to go see this, I thought this movie was rad. And I guarantee for years after that, I still thought it was rad. But there was a day, I can't tell you what day it was, but there's a day I watched this and I said, yo, this movie's not that good. At least it's not as good as I remember. And I'm getting my experience clogged up with how I feel about the movie. But I will be the first person to acknowledge there is some dumb shit in this. If I can cuss on the show, there's some dumb stuff in this movie.
Absolutely. I want to bring up ASG's chat so I can clarify his comment here. He says, my argument is that this was a bad movie, but didn't jump the shark in any particular spot. It was just bad overall. So one of the what is it? The ways that we view movies or the way that we analyze them on Shark Jumpers is that sometimes it's not the movie, it's what happened to the franchise. So like people can debate on Temple of Doom, but I think most of us like those 3 movies to varying degrees, like or love, depending on the film. But it was Kingdom of the Crystal Skull where it was like, no, not enough redeeming qualities. This is a bad movie. So
it made people not want Indiana Jones anymore.
Exactly.
And that's that. And again, that's probably why I get so caught up and so emotional when talking about this thing, because I love Indy. A lot of folks love Indiana Jones.
We should be way more excited for the next one than we are, because if it just went Last Crusade and we had nothing until this point, and then it's like, oh my God, Harrison Ford's coming back, and it's going to be directed by James Mangold, who did Logan. Everything about this would have us so excited. But instead, we have that sour taste of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull where we're like, we'll see, I guess. Maybe it'll be okay.
Right. And with that point, we now know what subpar or not as good as Raiders Last Crusade Indiana Jones looks like. We know what that looks like. And it's Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
This movie retired George Lucas outside of Strange Magic.
Right. Yes, of course, that's how. And he's like, yo, yeah, we're going to sell Lucasfilm now. And it was like, it was this whole thing. But there's so many different ways you could have approached a 4th Indiana Jones. I love more Indy. I love the fact we're getting Indy 5. We have no idea what the hell is going on with it besides Harrison Ford again injuring himself on set. But why did you go the route of aliens? And why did you? I know Harrison Ford loves this character. Shit, he was more than willing to kill Han in the 80s. But now he's like, I want to do more Indy until the day I die. No one else should be Harrison, or no one should be Indiana Jones. As I agree,
Indiana Jones die being impaled on a log.
That'd be so anticlimactic.
No, it'd be a plane crash, right?
See,
No,
I didn't want
to. He can't die in a plane crash.
No, it's the Millennium Falcon door falling on him. That's what it is. But he'll
kick himself off his own plane and say, "Get off my plane!"
Right.
The DCU should premium.
Should have a shark as their logo. Yeah. Oh, geez, Mike, coming in hot. But I'm just. I'll stop talking. What do you guys think?
In the DCU, okay.
Chris, I gotta give you all the full marks in the world. If you did the whole thing by yourself.
I'm sorry. I tend to talk on these things.
Well, no, you know what you wanted to say. Tyler, did you have something to say real quick?
No, it's good, because if you didn't talk, I would talk, and nobody wants to hear me. No,
we will. I want to interrupt our scheduled broadcasting for a little game that I put together. That Tyler knows about this because he was in here a little early, but you guys don't yet. And in the chat, you guys can play along. If anyone here is in the comments right now, just go over to private chat for right now so you can't see the comments. But the way it's going to work is we've got 4 movies, and I just want you guys to rank them from best scored to worst scored on Rotten Tomatoes. You don't have to come up with the percents. We're just going to do best to worst, okay? And the 4 films are, and you can just read them off to me.
I was going to write them on my phone if that.
I mean, you can write them on your phone, and then we can do that. But the 4 films are Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Out of the X-Men franchise, we have X-Men 3: The Last Stand, and then we have The Lost World, Jurassic Park, and then we have Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. And so we'll have those ranked. So you guys have them. If you have a piece of paper, just write down, and you can use abbreviations.
We're going from highest to lowest score?
Yes. You're going to go what's the best rated to what is the worst rated. I'll give you a little bit of time to do that. I'm curious what you guys have in the comment section as well. Again, the films are The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, X-Men 3: The Last Stand, The Lost World, Jurassic Park, and Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald.
Oh, wait. Okay.
In descending order, like best to least?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I wrote them down.
You're all good? I thought this would be fun. Hi, Brandy Parker in the chat.
What's up, Brandy?
What's going on, Brandy? She has her answer there, so I'm not going to post it up there. But Brandy, I want to know what you think about this, because I always love when you show up in the chat. I kind of want to get just a little 5-second excerpt from the song Brandy from Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff, and then just every time you pop up in the chat, we're just gonna hit that button.
Okay, I got it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I feel-
everyone's got
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
good to go.
Let's see, I'm gonna do.
The last two. I thought there was a clear two, and a clear top two, clear bottom two.
Okay, and so you're just trying to make sure you didn't.
Yeah, I
flip
didn't
them?
flip them.
All right.
At least I think so.
I want to start with, since it's our first time on one of our weekly shows, Bethany, what do you got for your number one? Actually, I think that's how I want to do it. I want to go all around and
Okay.
see who does number one. So what's your number one?
I'm going to assume Lost World is probably ranked the highest.
Okay. Tyler?
I put that for high too. Yeah.
You put Lost World for number one? And Chris?
I also put
Yes.
Lost World as number one.
Nobody got that right.
God damn it! Don't tell us. Don't tell us. Don't tell us. Just wait.
I want to
Oh,
talk
wait.
for sure.
Don't tell us. Just
I'm-
wait. Wait till we're done.
Let's just go
I'm
through
gonna
the whole thing.
Yeah, we're going to go through the whole list. And then
That's nuts.
Second highest rated, I guess, was probably it's X-Men Last Stand is what we have, right? X-Men 3.
yeah, X-Men the last
Yeah.
one. So
Okay, I was making sure I made an X-Men movie. So yeah, Last Stand is what I put.
For number two?
Yeah, for number 2.
Okay. And Tyler? I got
Yeah,
X-Men
it's
somewhere.
not my opinion, but I put. Oh, here, let me turn mine down. Is it better? Am I better? Can you hear me?
Yep. All
Okay.
good.
I put Crimes of Grindelwald for my second one.
And Chris?
I put Indy 4.
Okay. The only person to get a point for number two, Bethany.
Oh my god!
All right. So,
What's the
What?
split?
what is the third ranked movie on Rotten Tomatoes? I'm actually going to start with Chris this time.
I put Last Stand.
Tyler?
I put Last Stand too. I can't just change it now that I'm.
Well, I'm just
I put Last
we're
Stand.
going through it. And Bethany?
I guessed Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
All right. That's 0 again. So for the last one,
Damn, I
what's
was
left. So then I don't. Did anybody have Crimes of Grindelwald on the bottom?
I did.
Yeah.
no.
You guys both did. So Bethany and Chris both got a point.
That had to be the worst one.
All right.
Okay.
Now
No
I'm
one
gonna
likes that.
Right.
I'm gonna reveal the percents, and I think a couple of them are a little surprising. Okay. At number one, we have Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
God damn it.
And
Wow.
wait till I tell you the percent. 78% approval rating by critics.
2008 was a rough time for critics. Geez.
Wild. All right. Number two is X-Men 3: The Last Stand, dropping all the way down to 57%.
Oh my god.
Oh wow, these are going deep. These are going down.
And then pretty close is actually The Lost World Jurassic Park at 53%.
Damn it.
And then
Wow.
another huge jump. The Crimes of Grindelwald is at 36% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
Higher than
Oh, but
deserved.
for both Jurassic Park and Crimes of Grindelwald, they're making more. So
Yeah.
What was Lost World again? Can you tell me the percentage for that?
53.
What the hell? It's not that bad. For
Yeah.
the love of God.
That
Yo.
How
means
many
that
people thought the
47
first one was perfect?
That too.
47% of critics did not recommend the movie.
Jesus.
wild.
Oh my god. Look, okay. I knew Indy was towards the top because I'm not gonna lie, when I was doing my research, I looked at the Rotten Tomatoes score, but I figured that because of Jurassic Park or for Lost World, I thought it would get the first one we like the first one so much, we'll bump it up a little bit. It's not the first one, but we still like it. We'll bump it up. And I thought it was gonna be more, at least a little bit more than Indy, but fuck me.
it's
And,
got to be that
all right.
gymnastics scene.
That's
I
got to
think
be.
that's-
So I will move on to my film really quick. I'm going to blaze through it because I haven't seen it in a little bit. And it is the bottom of the chart. So how appropriate to talk about Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald. So real quick, I'm a Harry Potter fan. I read 6 of the books, and then the 7th one got spoiled for me, and I never got around to reading it. So that's just the way that worked. I've watched the movies pretty much dozens of times, at least the original 8. Love it a lot. I really like Fantastic Beasts. I didn't really expect to, but I thought it was a good time. I like the idea of having adults in the wizarding world that like they all know their spells, they're all experienced. But it had dark moments, but also it was light with the characters, and I thought Newt was a welcome addition. That being said, everything I liked about 1 fell apart in 2. Colin Farrell was one of my favorite parts of the first Fantastic Beasts. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
It's Johnny Depp now, and I'm like, nothing against Johnny, but I don't want it.
Even in life,
fact,
that's a big
No,
downgrade.
I agree. He didn't look very good either. Like he was...
What's fun to me, and I know a lot of people because of we're not going to get into the drama, but because of what's happening, a lot of people are mad that Johnny got replaced as Grindelwald. Here's the thing: they recast him with Mads Mikkelsen, which is originally already a much better choice for the character, if you ask me. So
he's already changed his face anyway, but
yeah. It was so convoluted. There was like 4 different storylines going on at once. And I've always thought Harry Potter is very digestible. That's why it's like a family franchise, and kids from like any age can watch all the movies and grow up with them. Even if they do get a little darker, they're not confusing. I can't really tell you what was going on with Leta Lestrange or what Grindelwald's plan is or what the whole deal is with Credence. And at the end, they're like, guess what, Credence? You're a Dumbledore. And I was like, why? What? When? How? Why are you doing? But I think it really meshes with the fact that J.K. Rowling in life has jumped the shark. So it makes sense that her property simultaneously would also go down the toilet. I mean, they're too far gone now. They're going to make another one, but I think they had a plan to do 5 or 6 films, and I'm pretty confident it's not going to happen. Between people's hatred of this film and also not wanting to support J.K. Rowling, and because she's writing these movies and all the copyright stuff that she gets from Harry Potter, Wizarding World in general, she's making buku money, and I think people really want to stop lining J.K.'s pockets. I guess confusion just really sums it up and then lack of interest. They introduced so many characters in here. They introduced Nagini as a human character, and we get to see Nicholas Flamel, and every new character that they added. Granted, Zoe Kravitz is a fantastic actress. I love to see her, but I didn't care about anyone. And the problem was I stopped caring about the people I cared about originally in the last film. Jacob Kowalski, Newt Scamander, I can't think of Queenie. None of them mattered anymore. Not only did they not matter, they weren't the focus. And then Queenie joins Grindelwald, and you're like, there's no real purpose for this. There's decisions made in the film that don't have any like underlying force behind it. So for me, Crimes of Grindelwald jumped the shark. Apparently Rotten Tomatoes agrees with me. Is there anything you guys want to say about this film?
This movie had too many main characters.
100%.
Like, that was my biggest thing.
That's the thing.
Like, that was my biggest issue with it.
Convoluted. I think there's too much going on, and it is a shame because I do think. I mean, I liked Newt, and yeah, I feel like he kind of gets the back burner a little bit.
Which part, Mike? Which part?
I think is when you were talking about JK jumping the shark herself.
She jumped the shark, which I do think that sounds it. The reason the next movie is not going to do well has more to do with her than probably how bad this last movie was. Like, I think it's just, people aren't going to want to go support it because she's involved and people want to get their money.
We have to blame JK, right? Because David Yates did.
She writes these movies.
Right. Well, she wrote the books that several of them were based off of, but it wasn't until Fantastic Beasts that she was actually writing the movies.
Where she was, she wrote the screenplays for the Fantastic Beasts movies.
The reason that I have to put the blame solely on her is because David Yates did Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince, and the 2 Deathly Hallows films, which are all good to great, like varying degrees, very enjoyable films. And then Fantastic Beasts did very well with it. So I have no reason to believe that all of a sudden he's a bad director.
Right.
Didn't David Yates do Tarzan? The Legend of Tarzan?
The Skarsgård movie?
Yeah.
Did he?
I think so.
I actually like that movie.
Oh,
I heard it was pretty good. I haven't watched it yet, but
Is that the Samuel Jackson?
yeah, and Margot Robbie.
Yeah, I saw that movie in theater. It was a
Yeah,
it was a good time. It was a good
There you
time.
go.
I
So-
only saw it that
Honest
one
to
time,
tell you,
but
yes, David Yates did direct The Legend of Tarzan. You are correct.
And your winner.
Good job, Jesse.
wow.
It's almost as if you lasted more rounds than Dan Merle in the free for all.
It's almost as if I lasted more rounds than Saul.
Yeah, yes, you did.
Clip that out.
But
Clip it out.
definitely don't clip that out. But I think I love the first Fantastic Beasts movie. I love it a lot. Like, I think it's really, really good. And it was the breath of fresh air that the
great.
Wizarding world needed. And I love Newt Scamander as a character. And I love this part of the universe that they introduced. They went back in time. Who gives a hell about a Harry Potter? Because that man don't exist yet. And yet somehow they fumbled the bag going into the second film. And Crimes of Grindelwald, I was talking about frustrated. I was just confused when I left the theater. I'm like, what I just watch? Like, I know there's so many different plot lines, and Jesse, you nailed that on the head. There's so much
And
going
what was
on.
The baby in the ship thing. Like, I was revisiting my trivia for this, and I was like, what happened? Lita accidentally killed her baby brother or something. Like,
I cannot tell you a single thing about the plot of that movie. I can't.
Oh my gosh.
That
Like, it's nuts.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm
Please.
I'm having a hard time remembering most of the movie, but to
Go
me,
figure.
what I remember is it felt like it was so obsessed with introducing retro characters from Harry Potter and instead of creating its own thing. Like, I get that it's a spin-off, but when it's called The Crimes of Grindelwald, we're all supposed to know exactly what happens and are waiting for what happens or what's going to go on. And it's so obsessed with us already knowing sort of that there's a future beyond this than trying to be a good movie. And then it wants to shoehorn in old characters. And I don't think that any character really had to be in this movie besides Grindelwald, and they could have done him a lot better. But instead they, because in all good, what would, never mind. I'm just going off. Sorry.
Well, they also ruined McGonagall briefly appears, and McGonagall's not born yet.
Yeah, that's
ruined
part
their
of
own
what I was
canon.
talking about.
And
Yeah.
then how do you take casting that I think is as great as having oh my gosh. It'll come to me.
Jude Law.
Dumbledore. Jude Law, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, Jude
Jude
Law
Law.
playing Dumbledore, which I mean he did great in his scenes, but yeah, they set up this both relationship and confrontation between Grindelwald and Dumbledore, and they do less than nothing with it. It's such a background throwaway.
I feel like he just stands there with his hands in his pockets, literally.
Yeah, quite literally, he does that a lot in the film.
Yeah.
And again, to your point, Tyler, this movie had an issue where I think Star Wars is going. This may be a hot take. Crucify me. I'm rocking with this. I think we're getting to the point with Harry Potter where you have to be in the know.
Cruciatus, not crucify in this instance.
Thank you.
Cruciatus.
But you almost have to know, it's oh, you didn't read the extra materials? You got it. That's how you know who this person is or why they're here and how they're in this situation. And that's something I felt that when watching Mandalorian. I still loved Mandalorian. This shit's fantastic. Second season in particular. But when Ahsoka showed up, it's we're supposed to know who that is already. And because she just shows up. But of course, you have to watch the Clone Wars and Rebels to fully understand the character, where she is, why she's there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Harry Potter, I feel like if you continue,
I understand.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But I understand putting people in for fan service, like a reason for doing it. But when it's the entire reason that they're there isn't,
to Tyler's
I'm
point,
not okay with that.
Nicholas
There has to be
Flamel-
substance behind it.
Nicholas Flamel was a great instance of that, where it's why are you in this movie? Because we've heard of Nicholas Flamel. That's why he's in this movie.
Right. But again, you have to, and honestly, it may be another situation where J.K. Rowling was already in some deep shit at Warner Brothers. They're yo, remember them 6 movies we promised you? We're giving you 4, or we're giving you 3. And she wants to flesh out the story to the best of her ability. Granted, it wasn't the best of her ability.
I
and
think
they
it was
smushed
more
it.
of like prequel era George Lucas, where no one's going to say no to them because they're so powerful.
Right.
Like Warner
I think
Brothers
that's exactly
was
what
like,
happened.
JK, you made us so much money. You throw that character in, do this weird thing. Yeah, make the snake a woman now. Like, that's fine. Like,
JK
no
or
one
Peter Jackson.
told George Lucas
Peter-
no one was telling her
Peter
no. And like, someone should have told her no.
Right. That's a good point. It's probably more so that. Jesse, we're losing you, buddy.
Ooh, Peter Jackson.
Say it again, Jesse.
Don't matter. Moving on.
Oh,
No, say
I
it
think
again,
you're
we got
going
you.
for Peter Jackson,
Okay, well,
Peter Jackson Hobbits reference, maybe.
Yeah. That's
I heard
all
Peter
was trying to do.
Jackson.
Because we're talking about when people are just like not told no and they just go off on a thing.
And it's funny
so
because they said no to Christopher Nolan of all people. And Christopher Nolan's like, oh, word? Okay. I'm going to go take my stuff somewhere else. And out of everyone you're going to say no to, you say no to Christopher Nolan, who probably has a better track record than these other folks nowadays. Because Rowling, and when Fantastic Beasts, the first one came out, she wasn't as problematic as she is now. And of course, the first film, like I said, I think is really good. But the second film, and I don't know my timeline exactly when she became super vocal about her points of views on certain things. But at the same time, you've done so well, and you make this ass movie. The movie's not good, and she says what she says. And now you're making video games, and we're out here with theme parks, and this, and this, and this. And so you want to not pay her money? Stop encouraging Harry Potter, which won't happen because Harry Potter's too involved in the zeitgeist. Is this a joke I missed? Can we not talk about Nolan?
I don't know about it.
On What the Show, we have a rule that we don't talk about Christopher Nolan.
Okay, we can carry that
But
over.
we're not on that show today, so we're
All right,
allowed
then
to.
Bethany, go nuts. Like all the thoughts you've been building up, just unleash them all here.
This is my time.
Just an update. The back of the seat right now is like a wet sponge.
Good to know, just in case y'all were wondering in the chat.
Yeah.
Do you have
That's
air
hot.
conditioning in your house?
No, there's no air conditioning.
No, because you like live in
I'm-
Washington and that's not a thing.
That's exactly the point. I'm above a garage. I'm in a vaulted ceiling above a garage. It's probably mid 80s outside. It's probably high 90s inside. And I'm just like, everything's stuck to me and it's so uncomfortable.
I can't imagine not having air conditioning.
But
That's-
supposedly today I will have an AC unit. But yeah, so I can just stylize my hair. That's cool. All right.
Okay, no
Anyway.
thanks. I make my own.
Crimes of Grindelwald. Shit movie? I think so. 36% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I think it's-
so yeah.
I think the character design for Grindlewald in the first place is shit.
They messed up by getting Johnny Depp because they're like, oh, let's get somebody who's dark and edgy and whatever the fuck, and you go to
It
Johnny
took me out of
Depp
the movie, even though he does fine in the role.
because they replaced him. They had Colin Farrell there, who's by far better in every significant way to Johnny Depp. Because I mean, just
Oh
look at
my
Colin Farrell.
God.
No one's going to complain by looking at Colin Farrell. No one, literally no one. And then Johnny Depp shows up.
I've
and
never
we're
been
like,
upset
"Oh."
that Colin Farrell was in something.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, let's
Yeah.
change that at the very end of the movie to leave a really sour taste in your mouth. And haha, sequel. And yeah, now it's Mads Mikkelsen. Better choice.
Better choice. Absolutely. Less drama. Nobody has problems with Mads Mikkelsen.
He's
All
great.
right, guys. Deep breath. We are going to get into our final topic, which
Mike, I like Daredevil.
I have to have this little prerequisite thing or let you guys know that about 2 to 3 years ago, me and Tyler decided we just wanted to talk about the X-Men franchise. We didn't make any plans,
It was
really. We
5
got
years
on one of
ago
our
now.
friends. Was it 5 years? Oh my gosh. We just wanted to talk about the X-Men franchise from like start to finish. That was like a 2.5 hour podcast. Just talking about X-Men films.
Yeah,
So
it
we're
was
going to
really
hopefully
long.
try to rein this in a bit. But I think that we probably all can think of times where the X-Men franchise has jumped the shark because they'll jump, maybe a good movie, jump, maybe a good movie. They're kind of just like, it's like a road bump. There's like, bup, 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 bup. Anyways, so, Tyler, let's talk about X-Men.
Well, I want to talk about X3 specifically because, like you said, when I was picking it, it's the first one that they do jump the shark with. I really liked the first one and the second one. Yeah. See, and I feel like that's fan service that I was talking about. Like, if you hadn't seen like ridiculously viral YouTube video, you probably wouldn't know why like that was in there. But it was funny to see. But also, I feel like it kind of did. When did it come out? What year did it come out?
X-Men 3, I think it's 2006.
2006. So yeah, it was like a year before Spider-Man 3. I think a lot of trilogies at the time, because I'm thinking X-Men and Spider-Man and the Star Wars prequels. I think a lot of them tried to wrap too much up instead of just making a movie. They tried to just fit a bunch of stuff in there. And I think that X3 kind of did that really bad. They wanted to end it and make it like this glorious trilogy. And then afterwards, they decided to make more movies. Well, at least that's the impression that I get.
Saga. Something that should be like a either a season long or a multi-movie arc, they crammed as a B plot. The A plot is the mutant cure. And then they just throw Phoenix in there. And she's not even, there's no Firebird. We had such a nice setup where she gets washed away in X2 and you see the fiery Phoenix under the water. And then she basically turns into Scarlet Witch in the third movie. And I don't understand the correlation.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is that everybody knows she's still alive at the end of X2, but number one, they killed Cyclops right away, which my boy gets treated so bad. Man, he was what's the word?
Justice
Hypnotized, acclimatized, freaking yeah. And he got the Hawkeye treatment in X2, and then he's dead in the second one. He
the
really
only Phoenix that's supposed to be in movies is named Joaquin.
There you go. Yeah. It's just one of those ones where I like, what?
Well, I was just gonna say, like we wanted, since first thing Bobby Drake has his powers, we wanted to see him go full Iceman, and they gave us 5 seconds of him fighting Pyro, turning to ice and headbutting him. Like that was it. That was the whole thing. The best thing this movie did was cast Kelsey Grammer as Hank McCoy. Everything else is pretty much trash.
Where was Beast the other 2 movies, though? And also, no Gambit until Origins.
Yeah,
and
which was the next film.
Where's Jubilee? And Sentinels only in their like little training simulation thing. There's a lot of aspect of...
I was going to say, ironically, the best Sentinels that we've had was actually the Danger Room, because the ones in Days of Future Past are ass juice.
Yeah, I agree. But like, there's so many more things that they could have done, and they were obsessed with just like, I mean, even just the mutant cure itself. They spent so much time. Let's talk about Grindlewald when we were talking about too many characters. There are so many characters in X3. There's Magneto's little group that he comes up with, and then there's
try naming the X-Men with the bolts.
Yeah, then there's the Junior X-Men, and it's all over the place, and they're so obsessed with. I don't even know what the movie is trying to do, because even at the end, it hints that it's not over, but they're like killing everybody off and taking everybody's powers away, and it's just the whole thing is a mess.
They couldn't stick with like let's quote Thanos for a second. You couldn't live with your own failure, and where has it brought you back to me? They kill Xavier, they kill Jean, and then they take Magneto's powers away. Now, they're at the end of the movie, Magneto's playing chess, and he knocks over a chess piece with his powers that have come back. There's post-credit scene. Charles Xavier's in another body inexplicably, and it's not explained how that gets resolved later. And then there was a deleted
so why are those
scene? A deleted scene where Jean Grey's like tombstone hovers. So like they were going back on every single choice that they made.
Yeah, it's like why did they even make the movie?
Except Cyclops, because
except Cyclops. That's the only one. Yeah, nobody cares about my boy Cyclops. I love Cyclops.
Justice for
Cyclops
Scott Summers.
is so cool.
Yeah.
He gets such bad treatment, man.
Even when they got Ty Sheridan, they really have not done anything of significance with the Cyclops character.
Why does Fox hate Cyclops? Like I genuinely do not understand. When I think of the leader of the X-Men, I don't even think of Xavier first. I think of Cyclops because I thought that's what we were trained when we watched the animated series. When we read the comic books, Cyclops was the guy. And
Wolverine is not the leader of the X-Men.
He's not, and they bitched him out to Wolverine in the first two films, where Logan was bullying him the whole time. And then the one time Scott's like, "Oh, Jean blows his ass up," and in the second trilogy, Ty Sheridan, the X-Men franchise really, aside from the original, doesn't know how to do okay. They're either really good, really bad, or there's no in between.
I kind of agree with that, to be honest. There's not a lot in between.
I would consider, actually, I take that back. I stand corrected. But
it's all over the place. I'll say that.
Those Last Stands. A buddy of mine asked me recently to rank the X-Men films, just out of the blue. He shot me a text. Hey, Chris, can you rank the X-Men movies? I'm like, oh god. So off the top of my head, and I had Last Stand incredibly low. And he said, like, why do you hate Last Stand? I just watched it, and I don't see why people hate it so much. It was not good, but I don't see why people hate it. And I listed off a bunch of reasons into why, a lot of what y'all just said, on top of my own personal gripes with it. And he's like, oh, yeah, I see that. Like, yo, the movie's not good.
When Deadpool does Colossus and Juggernaut better than the X-Men proper films, you have a problem.
Right.
Well, I would chalk the Colossus thing up to, like probably budget and availability, technological.
And Tim Miller.
Yeah.
Wait, so I'm saying that Colossus.
But no, he is better. Yeah.
Oh.
But I mean, you could probably make a better one for cheaper by the time Deadpool was made than they did when with
But they still had Colossus in 3. That's what I'm saying, and he was bad.
I know. He looked like he was dumb.
Was anybody good in that movie? Was anyone good besides Kelsey Grammer?
Oh no.
Kelsey Grammer was awesome, but everybody was so small. They had like this storyline for Angel.
I think Elliot Page did what needed to be done with that character, but it was nothing super stand out.
What did you say, Bethany?
But then they give
I was true about Elliot Page.
Oh, word.
Like, again, not enough screen time to really. I think that is the problem. Is no character. There's not interesting.
I liked him in the movie.
Elements of the story could be really cool. I love the mutant cure storyline. It just, you didn't have time to do it justice because you were trying to shoe in the Phoenix story, which then you didn't have time to do justice.
It's not the movie to throw a love triangle in. Like, they're like, let's get Rogue, Kitty, and
Bobby. I was gonna say the love triangle.
We got Dark Phoenix and the X, the Cure.
There are multiple love triangles. Yeah.
And that's what they have against
not so much. Cyclops being dead.
I think we can kind of summarize some of the biggest issues with it's Brett Ratner.
It's Brett Ratner, and we're not going to pretend
his
Bryan
other stuff
Singer's
aside,
any better, right?
His other stuff, yeah, right. But the actual product that we get from Brett Ratner, that's coming from a guy who loves Rush Hour. So I'm not.
Rush Hour.
I'm Brett Ratner's filmography. Him as a person, real piece of shit. But his movies, I'm like, yo, I love the Rush Hour flicks. Say what you want about 3, but again, Last Stand, my God, like I think
got the Taxi Driver though.
X2 didn't. Okay, X2 is one of the best comic book films ever made. I think we could all sure.
No, yes.
I thought you were just like, yeah, sure. I'm like, well, yeah, I thought that was like Universal.
No, my first comic book movie poster I owned was an X2 poster. It had the whole cast with like Yuriko, Deathstrike on the bottom.
And it's hard. It has Nightcrawler in it, and it's really damn cool. But then,
why don't they have Nightcrawler in X3?
Because Alan Cumming said he was too busy and he was making freaking Son of the Mask.
Priorities, man.
Doesn't matter. Put him in at 3 days of shooting or something.
Yeah. Well, instead we got like Cody Schmidt McPhee in the newer ones.
He's fine. Leave him alone.
Let me, yeah. If we're gonna talk about convoluting the storyline too, or like making it too messy, in X-Men 1, you're led to believe that Wolverine's the main driving force of the whole plot and all that stuff, and then you find out that it's Rogue about like halfway, 3/4 of the way through, right? I think that's the best use you're going to get out of Rogue, period. But they still have to like use Rogue so much in X3, and she's, I don't know, I feel like she's a bigger part of the movie than like half of it. And then like Wolverine, he had like his whole like backstory and everything all done and summarized and done well in X2. We don't really need more main Wolverine. I get that he's popular, but what about Charles Xavier? What about Magneto's grand plan? What about Cyclops? What about the rest of the mutants? And I think they just pay too much attention to Magneto and Wolverine. You know what I mean?
There's a thing with X-Men movies and putting people in blue makeup. Apparently, it makes them really want to exit the franchise.
Yo, but Alan Cumming at least did it. He left after he realized the hardship of the makeup, which I don't blame him.
Just like,
instead of saying, just show me without makeup.
I'll be in the movie.
Yeah. Right. It's like 1 day of makeup, that's it. That's all you get me. That's it. Yeah. No mas.
So I think, yeah, this was definitely the first time, and it's kind of 2 in a row. Like X-Men 3 was really just a bad taste because you're like, this is supposed to wrap it up, but then they left it and you're like, okay, do we get X-Men 4 now? No, we're doing X-Men Origins. And then X-Men Origins.
No, we're doing X-Men 2 again, but worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. And then if we want to get into the rest of them, I don't necessarily think that we have a million years.
No, but, we don't have time to
X-Men Origins, when they call it X-Men Origins, I was under the impression that they were going to make like X-Men Origins, Professor Xavier, Magneto, or whatever.
Do you know that
they ended up making First Class?
Yeah, the idea of First Class was originally X-Men Origins Magneto, and it was going to be a Magneto film, and then it grew into be First Class. Which reminds me, earlier I was going to bring up the point that other than Matthew Vaughn, you pretty much have to be a piece of shit to direct an X-Men movie. So I just think that's a fun.
We stand Matthew Vaughn in this house.
Yeah,
absolutely, 100%. First Class is my favorite outright X-Men movie. Yeah,
I love First Class. First Class has so much X-Men aspects to it. It's people actually using their powers and wearing jets and
Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon. That's one of his best roles. I know he's in everything, but he's not always convincing or like sinister. Like this guy.
Valentine in Tremors has something to say to you.
No, I like Tremors. Okay. But with Tremors, you're like watching the 4th one and then you're like, this sucks. Did I actually like the other ones? You know what I mean?
But we haven't mentioned the best part of First Class. We haven't mentioned the best part of First Class, which is Kevin Bacon. No, it's Kevin Bacon still.
Okay. Kevin Bacon.
But
Kevin Bacon
I think X-Men works in 3s, right? So you get the first 3, you get 2 good ones, third one's ass. Oh, okay, word. Then you get the Wolverine movies. 2 of them are ass. Yeah, the Wolverine's not good. And then Logan's like, oh yay, this movie's great. Fantastic. And then the newer ones, you get the 3. I haven't seen the 4th one, doesn't exist to me. But you get the first 2, which are to me really good. Really and then Apocalypse comes out and it just it's there. It's definitely there. It's not bad, but it's just
the thing I appreciate about Apocalypse is it's I would have appreciated
Olivia Munn as Psylocke.
Found a way to make it about. Yeah.
Of course.
No, in Apocalypse, I thought they were finally going to not make it about Magneto, but of course, then they still made it about Magneto.
And apparently, the beginning of Dark Phoenix is like the same thing. He has like another family and stuff. I'm like, dude, stop hanging out with people; they just die.
Dude, it's. I don't know why they made Dark Phoenix, but they should have.
I gotta agree with Garth here.
He said, and then it would have been like.
Movie. Yeah, just about him hunting down
Nazis all over the world.
Yeah, that honestly, I think what makes First Class my favorite is, I mean, I love James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender, but it's mostly what they did with Michael Fassbender when he was like at that bar in Germany and the confrontation between Kevin Bacon. Like it got dark. He like just slowly like drilled the coin through Kevin Bacon's head, and you're like, oh my god. And then even some of the interesting stuff they did with Moira Taggart was kind of cool. And then wasted in Apocalypse, and then she was also like a nothing post-credit character in X-Men 3. Geo, I think respectfully but strongly disagree. That is not how I feel.
I love Days of Future Past, but it's not very. I would say like Apocalypse seems more like comic book or cartoony as far as like costumes and like fights and like powers and stuff go. But then you get the whole climax of the film, and it's just like, oh, I was watching garbage the whole time.
Turns out, fun fact, trash.
Yeah. And plot holes in Days of Future Past aside, I think that it at least was written decently for a time travel movie, and it at least kept my interest the whole time. I would say it is probably one of the more boring X-Men movies, but I think that it's still one of my favorites. But X3 is the real mess. That's where it really started.
Absolutely.
Just
that's where the continuity.
Logan's fantastic.
Logan's great. I think I always ask the question, people are talking about like ranking X-Men films and stuff. I was like, well, for me, I take Logan and Deadpool out because they are not technically X-Men films. X-Men is nowhere in the title. I guess you can take Wolverine out of that if you really want to go by that. So I rank movies that have X-Men in the title. And for me, it's like First Class is on top, Last Stand and Origins are somewhere on the bottom.
Yeah, I would say it in the worst order from worst to best. I'll just do the worst three would be like Dark Phoenix, X3.
Oh yeah,
Apocalypse.
I haven't seen Dark Phoenix or New Mutants, so it's.
Oh, New Mutants isn't in the conversation, and neither is the Wolverine because it's too forgettable.
What's up,
Legitimately, you just said that. Oh, I should watch that. No, I don't want to torture myself. I was thinking I should watch New Mutants now that I remember it exists, but I really don't want to torture myself. So.
If you have time to kill and you just want to watch something, then sure. But I'm not going to recommend New Mutants to you.
All right.
Go watch Deadpool again.
All right.
That one went through like
after
production
seeing
hell,
X3
didn't it?
that they'd actually make worse films.
I mean, we got the worst one not too long after that with Origins. That movie's hot. Talk about hot garbage. Like that movie's hot.
I think there's cool parts in it. Striker's decent. Sabretooth's decent, but it's also the worst CGI I've ever seen, and I've seen Mission to Mars.
I forgot who I was talking to, but I agreed with somebody. They said as much as Origins gets shit on, they prefer Origins to the Wolverine, and I said I'd have to agree. I don't ever want to watch the Wolverine again. I watched that movie. At least that was a waste of time.
Talk about boring. I know Mike said New Mutants is boring. The Wolverine is boring.
Yeah. Yeah, which is funny because the trailers and all the hype, it led it up to be like this actual film. Like we're gonna get they
sold us
not
on
like
Wolverine
a
versus ninjas, and we didn't get it.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be super awesome, but it was boring and unforgettable. At least Origins has helicopters crashing and explosions and claw fights and immortality and war and people dying and Dominic Moynihan. Yeah, it's just but when he is first testing his claws out, what's that?
I said completely forgot that Dominic Moynihan was in that movie. He was the electricity guy, that can control.
But and I appreciate that scene because that's when you're supposed to figure out that Sabretooth is detached and he's somebody to be feared and he's going and hunting all the people.
Also,
that used to be on this task
Origins gave us Ryan Reynolds, which then grew into Deadpool. Wolverine gave us nothing.
True.
Yeah, but that credit scene with Deadpool and also the total bastardization of the character. But at least, I don't know. But when he's first testing out his adamantium claws and he takes them out in the mirror and then he cuts that sink, that is the fakest, most terrible CGI I've ever seen. I can't think of a worse instant other than maybe Superman's lip.
Pretty close. All right. I mean, any last thoughts about X-Men stuff? We're approaching getting to an hour and a half mark. Had some good stuff. I agree.
No, I'm glad.
Points.
I'm glad. I'm glad that Nightmare's over. I'm glad X3 only happened twice.
Don't put that out into the
But
ether.
yeah,
They
I
might
think-
try to do it a third time.
Yeah.
That's right.
They will.
They'll bring Brian Singer back too.
Oh, not with Kevin
no,
Feige
they
has
won't.
anything to say about it.
Oh, they won't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You guys,
No,
you
they
guys really
won't.
had to remind me that we now have X-Men back.
Right. At least they'll come eventually. But in regards to X3, Kelsey Grammer rules. Great beast. Great beast.
I love Kelsey Grammer. Kelsey Grammer's great.
Think,
Sideshow Bob for the win.
I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think Kelsey Grammer did it better than Nicholas Hoult.
Oh, that's not a hot take at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
I
looks
think
better too. A million times better.
Mike's saying Zack Snyder's Dark Phoenix.
Give it to me.
It would be epic. It would
You know what
definitely
he
be
would
epic.
do? He would at least come at it from a fan's perspective and try to do it,
For better or worse.
He would
come
have
at
to
it from
go
a fan's
big with it.
perspective.
Yeah,
He would go big.
right. But he would do it, he would approach it the way that a fan would want it approached instead of just being like, oh, here's the general concepts. Let me find a way to make that work. Which they never have. And they should probably, now they've kind of ruined it. But.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up. We talked about Indiana Jones, talked about some X-Men, talked about the crimes of Grindelwald, and Jurassic Park. I want to know. You guys can message me on Twitter. I got the link right up there in the top right. Let me know what movies jumped the shark for you. If you want to come on the show, all that good stuff. I love doing these shows. They're a lot of fun. I love getting to these discussions. I love remembering or being reminded of things that I did not remember about so many of these films. Like Chris just unveiled more about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull than I thought I had actually retained in my brain. So that was a lot of fun.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody, for coming on. Bethany, I hope you had a good time. Tyler, I know you're close to me, so you're also dying of heat stroke, but I hope aside from sweating to death, you also had a good time.
Yeah, I want to turn my AC back on.
Yeah. And everyone's welcome at any given point in time. So until 2 weeks from now, I think, if there's no scheduling conflict, there should be another episode of Shark Jumpers. Ooh ha ha. And we will talk about something else. I think I want to start talking about video games because I always advertise that sometimes we talk about video game franchises, and we haven't yet. So maybe we will do that. Until
Mortal Kombat.
Next time, guys. What's that?
Said Mortal Kombat.
In what way? Mortal Kombat got significantly better. Unless you're talking about like 3 and a 4, but that's a whole nother conversation. All right, guys. Until next time, I have been Jess. Oh, you know what? I am so sorry. I was about to sign off and nobody was getting to do their plugs. So Bethany's rarely on here, so I want to give Bethany the opportunity to do so. Bethany, where can the people find you?
They can find me every Wednesday. That's our new time slot now. Wednesday at 9:30 on What the Show podcast over on What the Show /YouTube, all that jazz. And then also on Instagram at B11Curl. And you can find me on Twitter under my name, but I rarely use it. So you can if you want to, though, I guess.
I noticed. I was trying to tag you in the image for the show, and I could not find you on there.
I'm the worst Twitter person, but I do technically have one. I'm more Instagram, Facebook. And then, of course, What the Show.
Perfect. All right. And Chris, I know you got some big things going on tonight.
Right.
So let's talk about that for a second.
Totally.
And also,
yeah.
where can people find you?
Of course. You can find me on Twitter at right there, C. Anthony Lopez. You can find me on Instagram at C. Anthony Lopez, just with the underscore underneath or in between the C and the A underneath. Yeah, same thing. But you can catch me primarily on Watt Real Entertainment, WATREEL Entertainment on YouTube. Tonight, we have our 250 subs spectacular. It's our big celebration of 250 subs. It may not sound like a lot, but to us it is. And we're going to do a bunch of fun stuff.
Celebrated 100.
Right, and
it's way more than I've ever gotten.
we've grown a lot, and we have a lot of fun content. You can catch my face on Wrestle Reel every Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, where I talk about pro wrestling, and on Spin from the Reel, a Spot on reaction show, every Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. And my personal podcast, away from YouTube, away from all this crazy video stuff, it's For Chris's Sake, FORCHRIS_SAKE. Wherever you find your podcast, it's my everything bagel. If it's not Schmodown, if it's not wrestling, I'm talking about it there. And on Monday, I'm doing Pixar movies. I'm ranking them from best to worst, Luca included. So catch that Monday. Every single Monday, we do a bunch of fun stuff. I'm talking High School Musical, the musical, the series, if anybody gives a shit, on that podcast as well. So, yeah, we're doing that wherever you find your podcast, Spotify, Apple. And I'm on Flick-N-Reel every so often. Thanks, Jesse. This was fun, dude.
Absolutely. We love having you on here. I'm glad that you can make it on this one. And again, huge apology to all the viewers. I don't think I've been on my A game because I'm just like sitting here in a constant state of exhaustion. It's so hot.
You're gonna be like Pigpen from Peanuts, but instead of like dirt, it's gonna be like sweat and humidity.
Instead of a dust cloud, it's actually just a puddle that follows me. Tyler, is there anything that you want to plug or anywhere you want people to find you, or you just?
You can join the Fans of Fandom Facebook page. If I have anything going on or in the works or coming up, you'll be able to find it there. So Fans of Fandom on Facebook.
That's a great place to, if you are not actively looking at movie news and stuff, it's great to just hang out on that site because we share things all the time. Or on that Facebook page. And then me.
Yeah, it's just like anything comes out and
yeah. You can find me at Jesse Swift on Twitter, also here on Flick-N-Reel, where we have 2 to 3 shows a week. We have our Loki review, which we missed last week because I was getting my ass worked at work all week. Kind of screwed everything up. But we should be back next week. We'll probably be reviewing episode 4, and then we'll recap 3 a little bit. And that is at 7 p.m. on Thursday nights. And then on Saturdays, of course, 9 a.m., we have News and Views, where we talk about the weekly movie news that have been coming out that week. And then every other week, we do Shark Jumpers, because it takes a little while to prep, and we go and talk about all the movies, TV shows, games, and stuff that jump the shark. Anyways, so that's what this was. Thank you guys all so much for coming. Thank you for all the viewers that are down here. Thanks to Gio. Thanks for Koi showing up. Shug, thank you. Jesse's Ass, the movie coming soon to theaters near you. All right, until next time, keep it real. And
thank you. Hey, thanks everybody. Sorry I'm a little out of practice.